Piper decided she honestly hated her life. And honestly, who could blame her? First, she was living in the shadow of her movie star dad and screwed up trying to get his attention only to be sent away. If that wasn't bad enough, she spent some time trying to get a guy to like her, only to find out that their time together wasn't real and just an illusion put in her head by the Queen of Olympus. Worst of all, she found out the only reason she was born was because her dad was enticed by the flashiest, most shallowest goddess in the universe. Now, she was stuck living with the Aphrodite bunch. As soon as Piper woke up the next morning, she immediately grabbed a mirror. She was still drop dead gorgeous. Last night after the campfire, she tried everything from washing the makeup off her face, trying to make her eyes red, even chopped her hair off. Nothing worked. Her hair popped back to perfection, the magic makeup reapplied itself, her eyes refused to get puffy or bloodshot. She would have ditched the dress, except she had no other clothes to change into. The jacket, pants, and boots she wore when she arrived just vanished out of thin air the moment she was blessed by Aphrodite. Her cabin mates offered her some spare clothes, but everything they offered was even more fashionable and ridiculous and more embarrassing than what she had on. Piper usually looked like a zombie in the morning. Now, her hair was styled like a supermodel's, her waist felt tighter, her chest felt heavier, and she had not one spot on her skin. She growled in frustration. She looked like a life-size doll. From across the cabin, Drew called, "Oh, it won't go away, hon." Her voice dripped with false sympathy. "Mom's blasting will last at least another day, maybe a week if you're lucky." "What?" Piper growled, gritting her teeth. The other cabin mates stared at her in discomfort. Piper knew she should play cool and not let them get under her skin. She dealt with shallow popular kids plenty of times, but this was different. These were her brothers and sisters, even if she had nothing in common with them. There were about 5 girls and 2 guys in the whole cabin. Only a couple of them were around middle school age, while the rest seemed high school age like Piper. How Aphrodite had managed to have so many kids, so close in age, with so many different mortals over the years? Piper honestly did not want to find out the answer to that. Some things were better left a mystery. "Don't worry, hon," Drew teased. "You're thinking you don't belong here? We couldn't agree more. Isn't that right, Mitchell?" One of the guys flinched. Yeah, sure." "So anyways, people, 15 minutes until breakfast. The cabin's not gonna clean itself, you know. And Mitchell, I think you've learned your lesson, right, sweetie? So, you're on garbage patrol just for today. And show Piper how it's done later, because I have a feeling she'll have that job soon enough, if she survives her quest. Now, get to work, people. It's my bathroom time." She marched into the bathroom and someone yelped inside. Another girl about 11 was kicked out hastily wrapped in a towel with shampoo still in her hair. Piper's eyes widened as the girl started to cry. A couple of older girls covered her up and wiped the bubbles out of her hair. "Seriously?" Piper asked to no one in particular. "You let Drew treat you like this?" A few kids shot Piper nervous looks like they might actually agree, but they said nothing. The campers kept working, though Piper couldn't see why the cabin needed much cleaning. It was like a life-size dollhouse, with white walls, red curtains, crystal lamps, bedquilts that were purple, pink, or red, and a seashell-shaped vanity desk. Every camper had a wooden camp chest next to their bunk with their names painted on it, and Piper guessed that was where they kept their clothes and personal stuff. The only bit of individualism was how the campers decorated their private bunk spaces. Each had slightly different pictures tacked above the beds of whatever celebrities they thought were hot. A few had some personal photos too, but most were pictures of actors or singers or models or whatever. Piper hoped she didn't see the poster. It had been quite a while since the movie stopped playing in theaters, and she thought surely by now everyone had torn down all those old tattered advertisements. No such luck. She spotted it on the wall, above the vanity desk, in the middle of a collage of famous heartthrobs. The title said, "King of Sparta," in big bright letters. Above that, the main character carried a spear and shield. He wore nothing but a cape and sandals and one of those ancient Greek speedos warriors wore into battle, showing off his perfect body with ripped pectorals and six-pack abs for the whole world to see. It was the most ridiculous poster she ever saw. She and her dad had a good laugh over it the first time seeing it. Then the movie made about $1 bajillion and the poster popped up everywhere. Piper could never get away from it. Not at school, walking down the street, even online. It became the poster, the most embarrassing thing in her life. She turned away so no one would think she was staring at it. Maybe when everyone went to breakfast, she could tear it down and they wouldn't notice. "Excuse me," said a voice by her feet. It was the garbage patrol guy Mitchell, crawling around on all fours, picking up used tissues and crumbled love letters scattered on the floor. Apparently the Aphrodite kids weren't 100% neat freaks after all. Then Piper asked, "Say, Mitchell, what exactly did you do to make Drew mad?" He glanced over at the bathroom door to make sure it was still closed. Then he said, "Last night, after you acclaimed, I thought you might not be so bad." It wasn't much of a compliment, but Piper was stunned. An Aphrodite kid had actually stood up for her. "Thank you," she said. Mitchell shrugged. "Yeah, well, see where it got me? But for what it's worth, I'll get a cabin 10. Then a younger girl with blonde pigtails and glasses raced up to Piper rather shyly and tried to hand her a backpack. "Hi, I'm Lacey," she said nervously. "I thought you might need these, for your trip. You can change clothes, The blessing won't stop you. This is just, a backpack with some rations, some ambrosia and nectar for emergencies, some jeans, a few extra shirts, and a warm jacket and winter boots." As soon as Piper took the bag, Lacey started to hurry away, but Piper caught her arm. "Hold on, at least let me thank you. Why are you rushing off?" Lacey looked like she might shake apart from nervousness. "Oh, Drew might find out," Mitchell explained. "I might have to wear the shoes of shame," Lacey gulped. "The what?" Piper asked. "Some dumb way to punish kids Drew made up," Mitchell explained. "Kids who get punished are forced to wear some old-fashioned white nursing shoes." "They don't go with anything," Lacey whimpered. "She made me wear them for a whole week once." "Me too," Mitchell said. "And there are worse punishments too. Like, Drew can charm speak you. Not many Aphrodite kids have that power, but if she tries hard enough, she can get you to do some pretty embarrassing things. Piper, you're the first person I've seen in a long time who's been able to resist her." Charm speak, Piper thought. Then she remembered last night the way the crowd at the campfire had swayed back and forth between Drew's opinions and hers. "You mean like you could talk someone into doing things? Or giving you things? Like a car?" "Oh, please don't give Drew ideas," Lacey panicked. "But yeah," Mitchell said. "She can do that." "Wait, so that's why she's head counselor?" Piper guessed. "She convinced you all to let her take the job?" "Nah," Mitchell said. "She inherited the post when Selena Beauregard died in the war back in the summer. Drew was second oldest. Oldest campers automatically get the post, unless somebody with more years or more experience wants to challenge them, in which case there's a duel, but that hardly ever happens. Anyway, we've been stuck with Drew in charge since August, and she decided to make some changes in the way the cabin's run." "Yes, I did." Suddenly, Drew was standing right behind them. Lacey squealed like a guinea pig and fainted on the spot. Drew looked down at Mitchell and said, "Oh, Mitchell, I think you might have missed a little sticky situation in the bathroom." She gestured to the bathroom door. Water started to spread out underneath. "Ugh, fine," Mitchell managed. Drew smiled. "You see, Piper, hon, we're a good cabin here, a good family." Selena, on the other hand, well, you can take a warning from her. She was secretly passing information to Kronos in the Titan War, helping the enemy. Can you imagine? Drew smiled, all sweet and innocent. She looked like any popular teenage girl from any high school, but her eyes were as cold as steel. Piper got the feeling Drew was looking straight into her soul, pulling out her secrets. "Not that the other cabins talk about it," Drew continued, "but they keep acting like Selena died a hero." "She sacrificed herself to make things right," Mitchell shouted. "She did die a hero." "Shut up, Mitchell," Drew commanded. "Yes, ma'am," Mitchell said. "Anyway," Drew continued, "Selena lost track of what this cabin's all about. We match up cute couples at camp, then we break them apart and start over. It's the best fun ever. We don't have any business getting involved in other stuff like wars or quests. I certainly haven't been on any quest. They're a waste of time." Lacey spoke up nervously. But last night you kept insisting on volunteering. You wanted to go. Drew glared daggers at Lacey and her voice died. Most of all, Drew continued, we certainly don't need our image tarnished by spies, do we, Piper? Piper tried to answer, but she couldn't. There was no way Drew could know about her dreams or her dad's kidnapping. Was there? It's too bad you won't be around, Drew said. If you survive your little class, don't worry. I'll find somebody to match you up with. Maybe one of those Groster Hephaestus guys. Or Clovis. He's pretty repulsive. Drew looked her over with a mix of pity and disgust. Honestly, I didn't think it was possible for Aphrodite to have an ugly child, but who was your father? Was he some sort of mutant or Tristan McLean? Piper snapped. As soon as she said it, she hated herself more than ever. She never ever played the famous dad card, but Drew just went way too far. The stunned silence was gratifying for a few seconds, but Piper felt ashamed of herself. Everybody turned to look over at the poster of her dad, flexing his muscles for the whole world to see. Oh my goddess! One of the girls screamed. Sweet, one guy said. The dude with the sword who spilled the guts out of that other dude in that movie? That's awesome! He is so hot for an old guy, said Valentina. Then she blushed. Wait, no, sorry. I know he's your dad, but still, that's so cool. Hey, Piper, you think you can get me his autograph? Mitchell asked. Piper forced herself to smile. She couldn't say, if my dad survives. Sure. No problem, she managed. Both the girls and guys squealed in excitement, and they all surged forward, asking a dozen questions at once. Have you ever been on set? Do you have lunch with movie stars? Do you live in a mansion? Has your dad set you up on a hot date? Have you had your rite of passage yet? That last one caught Piper off guard. Rite of what? She asked. Then they all started giggling with one another as if they were telepathically sharing a joke. The rite of passage for an Aphrodite child, one explained. You get someone to fall in love with you, then you break their heart and dump them. Once you do that, you've proven yourself worthy of Aphrodite. Piper tried to get a good look at the crowd's faces to see if they were joking. No such luck. Break someone's heart on purpose? She asked. That's terrible. The others looked confused. What? One guy asked. Oh my goddess, Valentina said. I bet Aphrodite broke your dad's heart. I bet he never loved anyone ever again, did he? So romantic. When you have your rite of passage, you can be just like Mom. Then you can forget it! Piper yelled, a little louder than she intended. There's no way I'm gonna go through the trouble to get someone to go out with me just so I can mess with their feelings on purpose just to impress a mother I never knew. That's just insane and cruel and just evil. Which of course gave Drew a chance to take back control. Well, there you go, she said. Selena said the exact same thing. She broke the tradition, fell in love with that ugly Beckendorf boy, and stayed in love. If you ask me, that's why she got both him and herself killed. That's not true, Lacey squeaked, but Drew glared at her again, and she immediately faded again. Hardly matters, Drew continued, because Piper, hon, you couldn't break anyone's heart anyway. And this nonsense about your dad being Tristan McLean, that's so begging for attention. Several kids blinked uncertainly. You mean he's not her dad? One asked. Drew rolled her eyes. Oh, please. Now it's time for breakfast, people, and Piper has to start that little quest. So let's get her packed and get her out of here. Drew broke up the crowd and got everyone moving. She called them hon and dear, but her tone made it clear she expected to be obeyed. Piper took this as her chance to finally go get changed. Mitchell and Lacey helped Piper pack up. They even guarded the bathroom while Piper went in and changed into her better traveling outfit. When Piper came out, she almost felt normal again. The hand-me-downs weren't anything fancy, just a blue winter coat and black winter pants and matching boots. In fact, the outfit didn't seem all that different from what she had on when she arrived. The other campers were standing at their bunks while Drew stood at the front, holding the door open, eager to watch Piper leave. She also noticed the King of Sparta poster had been ripped from the wall. Drew's orders, no doubt. Even though Piper wanted to take it down herself, now she was totally steamed. She shouldered her bag and felt everyone's eyes glued on her as she walked to the door. She could just leave right now and forget about everything that happened here. That would have been the easiest thing. Honestly, what did she even care about this place, this ridiculous cabin, and all these shallow kids? Except that some of them had tried to help her, even stood up to Drew for her. She turned at the door. You know, you guys don't really need to let Drew boss you around, she told them. The other kids shifted several glances at Drew, but she looked too stunned to respond. We kinda do, said Valentina. She is our head counselor, after all. She's a tyrant, Piper snapped, and a hypocrite, and a narcissist, and a liar, and a bully, and well, a lot of things you shouldn't call people. Okay? You can think for yourselves. There's got to be more to Aphrodite than this. More than this? One kid echoed. Think for ourselves? A second muttered. People! Drew shrieked. Don't be stupid. She's charm-speaking you. No, I'm not. I'm just telling the honest truth, said Piper. At least, she thought that was the case. She didn't understand exactly how this charm-speaking business worked, but she didn't feel like she was putting any special power into her words. She didn't want to win an argument by tricking people. That would make her no better than Drew. Piper simply meant what she said. Besides, even if she tried charm speaking, she had a feeling it wouldn't work well on another charm speaker like Drew. Drew sneered at her. You may have a little power, Miss Movie Star, but you don't know the first thing about Aphrodite. You have such great ideas? What do you think this cabin is about, then? Tell them. Then maybe I'll tell them a few things about you, Piper wanted to make a withering retort, but her anger turned to panic. She was a spy for the enemy, after all, just like Selena Beauregard, an Aphrodite traitor. Did Drew know about that, or was she bluffing? Under Drew's glare, her confidence began to crumble. Not this, Piper managed. Aphrodite is not about this. Drew started laughing. Not this. Hear that, people? She doesn't have a clue. Piper marched out the door without looking back and promised herself she would never go back to that cabin ever again. Jason dreamed of wolves that night. A pack of wolves stood in a circle surrounding him in what seemed to be the ruins of an old building. The walls were crumbled, there was no roof to be seen, and behind him, what appeared to be a deep, reflecting pool, now dried up and empty, stretched about 50 feet long. The strangest part was the two weird organic-looking objects sitting in the pool. They looked like giant flower buds, only one of them had more vertical tendrils wrapped around it, making it look more like a bird cage. Whatever was in those blobs, Jason's instincts told him he wasn't going to like either of them. On the other end of the pool stood a giant she-wolf, about 5 times larger than the average wolf. Her eyes glowed silver, and her coat was the same color as the rocks. I know this place, Jason said. The wolf regarded him. She didn't exactly speak, but Jason could understand her. The movements of her ears and whiskers, the flash of her eyes, the way she curled her lips, all these were part of her language, and of course, he knew her name. Lupa, the Queen of the Wolves. Of course you do, the she-wolf said. Like many heroes, you began your journey here as a pup. Now you must find your way back on a new quest, a new beginning. What's going on? Jason panicked. What is that thing? The enemy has chosen this place to awaken her most powerful son, the Giant King, Lucas said, and she shall sacrifice the Queen of Olympus to do it. A sacred place where demigods are claimed, the place of death and life, the burned house, the house of the wolf. It is an abomination. You must stop her. Her? Jason was confused. You mean Hera? I care nothing for Juno, but if she falls, our enemy awakes, and that will be the end for us all. You know this place. You can find it again. Cleanse our house. Stop this before it's too late. Then the blob covered in tendrils seemed to get larger by the second. Jason sensed that if it ever opened, it would release something he did not want to see. "Who am I?" Jason asked the she-wolf. "At least tell me that." Wolves don't have much of a sense of humor, but Jason could tell the question amused Lupa, as if Jason were a cub just trying out his claws, practicing to be the alpha male. "You are our saving grace, as always," Lupa continued. "Do not fail, son of Jupiter." Jason woke up to the sound of thunder. Then he remembered where he was. It was always thundering in Cabin 1. He could see thunderclouds and lightning above through the cabin's skylight. Funny thing about Cabin 1, Jason immediately discovered sleeping in here wasn't as excited as it sounded. In fact, it seemed more like a small temple than a summer camp cabin. There were no lights, no dressers, no real beds, not even a door or a bathroom, so it was definitely not designed for someone to live here. The campers mentioned how Zeus didn't have too many kids for years, so that might have had something to do with it. The Hephaestus cabin managed to install a curtain rod on the entrance, and someone else brought him a spare temporary mattress and blanket, and some fresh clothes. In the center of the room stood a tall statue of Zeus, fully colored and dressed in a loincloth. He carried a lightning bolt as if ready to smite somebody. Jason studied the statue, looking for anything he had in common with the lightning man. Black hair? Nope. Blue eyes? Yes. Crumbly expression? Well, maybe. Thundering muscles? No. Beard? No thanks. Jason pulled himself up. His whole body was stiff from bad sleep and summoning lightning. That little trick last night hadn't been easy. He still couldn't believe he belonged here, despite everything they told him. He thought about his dream, hoping more memories would come back to him about Lupa or that ruined house. He knew he'd been there before. The wolf was real, but his headache ached when he tried to remember. The marks on his forearms seemed to burn. If he could find those ruins, he could find out more about his past. Whatever was growing inside that weird blob, Jason had to stop it. Then he thought about Piper again, and he remembered how she had suddenly been transformed. Sure, she was pretty before, but now she was 10 times as beautiful. Jason still wasn't sure how he felt about that. He acted like an idiot, announcing in front of everyone that she was a knockout. Not that there had been anything wrong with her before. Sure, she looked great after Aphrodite zapped her, but she also didn't look like herself, not comfortable with all that attention. In fact, something about all that unwanted attention just made Jason feel like he could relate, as if he'd been dealing with similar situations much longer than just last night, maybe even for years. He was glad that Piper was going with him on the quest. Jason had tried to act brave at the campfire, but all that was just an act. The idea of going up against an evil force powerful enough to kidnap Hera scared him witless, especially since he didn't even know his own past. He needed help, and it felt right having Piper with him. But things were already complicated without figuring out how much he liked her, and he already messed with her head long enough. He slipped on his new clothes, ready for his new quest, and to get out of that cold, empty cabin, when he spotted something he hadn't noticed the night before. An old bedroll laid out behind the Zeus statue, with a backpack next to it, and even some pictures taped on the wall, as if someone else had shared some space here before. Whoever had slept there, Jason could only guess it must have been a long time ago. The bedroll smelled musty, the backpack was covered in dust. Some of the photos once taped to the wall had lost their stickiness and had fallen to the floor. Jason picked up one of the fallen photos. It was a strip of pictures like you do in a do-it-yourself photo booth. A little girl who Jason immediately recognized as a much younger Annabeth was sitting with 2 older kids smiling with her in the photo booth, as if they were a family trying to live their lives together as happily as possible. Next to Annabeth was a sandy-haired guy about 14, and another girl around the same age with black choppy hair like Piper's and a black leather jacket, so she looked kinda goth, but something about her made Jason's hair stick up, as if she were someone he'd seen before. "That's Thalia," someone said. Jason turned to find Annabeth standing in the doorway. "She's the other child of Zeus who lived here, but not for long. Sorry, I should have knocked." "Oh, it's fine," Jason said. "Not like I think of this place as home." Annabeth was dressed for travel, with a winter coat over her camp clothes and a traveling bag over her shoulder. "I don't suppose you've changed your mind about coming with us?" Jason asked. She shook her head. I'm sorry, but my whole mission isn't over yet. Not until I find Percy. Gee, I just wish we had at least one person with us who knew what they were doing, Jason said. Hey, you'll do fine, Annabeth promised. Something tells me this isn't the first time you've done something like this. Jason had a vague suspicion she was right, but that didn't make him feel any better. Everyone seemed to think he was so brave and confident, but they didn't see how lost he really felt. How could they trust him when he didn't even know who he was? He looked at the pictures of Annabeth, smiling and wondering how long it had been since she smiled like that. She must have really liked this Percy guy, and he must have been really good to her if she searched for him this hard, and that made Jason a little envious. Was anyone searching for him right now? What if somebody cared for him that much and was going out of their mind with worry, and he couldn't even remember his old life? You know who I am, he guessed, don't you? Honestly, Jason, she said, I'm not sure. My best guess is you're a loner. It happens sometimes. For one reason or another, the camp never found you, but you survived anyway. By constantly moving around, training yourself to fight, handling the monsters on your own, you beat the odds. The first thing Chiron said to me, Jason remembered, was that I should be dead. That could be why, Annabeth said. Most demigods would never make it on their own, and a child of Zeus? I mean, it doesn't get much more dangerous than that. The chances of you reaching age 15 without finding Camp Half-Blood or dying, well, that's pretty rare. Dahlia ran away when she was young. She survived on her own for a while, even took care of me for a while, so maybe you weren't alone either. And these marks? Jason asked, holding up his arm. Well, Annabeth said, the bolt is the symbol of Zeus, so that makes sense. The 12 lines? Maybe they stand for years. If you've been making them since you were like 3 years old, maybe. As for the SPQR sign, that's the motto of the old Roman Empire, Senatus Populusque Romanus, the Senate and the people of Rome. Though why you would burn that on your own arm, I don't know, unless maybe you had a really harsh Latin teacher? Latin, Jason thought. He was pretty sure that wasn't the reason. It also didn't seem possible he'd been on his own his whole life, but what else made sense? Annabeth had been pretty clear Camp Half-Blood was the only safe place in the world for demigods. I had a weird dream last night, he said. It seemed like a stupid thing to confide, but Annabeth didn't look surprised. Happens all the time to demigods, she said. What did you see? He told her about the wolves, the ruined house, and the 2 blobs. As he talked, Annabeth started to look more and more agitated. You don't remember where this house is? She asked. No, Jason said, but I'm sure I've been there before. Redwoods, she mused. Could be Northern California. And the she-wolf? I studied goddesses and spirits and monsters my whole life, but I've never heard of Lupa. She said the enemy is awakening, the giant king, and she's going to sacrifice the queen of the gods to do it. And she expects you to stop it, Annabeth finished. You know what it is, don't you? He asked. Or at least, you've got a good guess. I saw your face last night. Last night at the campfire, you looked at Chiron like it was suddenly dawning on you, but you didn't want to scare everyone. Annabeth hesitated. Jason, the thing about prophecies is, the more you know, the more you try to change them, and that could be disastrous. Chiron believes it's better for heroes to find their own path, to find out things in your own time. If he had told me everything he knew before my first quest with Percy, I've got to admit, I'm not sure I would have been able to go through with it. For your quest, it's even more important. That bad, huh? Not if you succeed. At least, I hope not. But I don't even know where to start, Jason admitted. Where am I supposed to go? Follow the monsters, Annabeth suggested. Like the storm spirits back at the Grand Canyon? Jason suggested. If so, how do I find them? Personally, I'd ask a wind god, Annabeth said. Aeolus is the master of all the winds, but he's a little unpredictable. No one finds him unless he wants to be found, I would try one of the four seasonal wind gods that work for him. The nearest one who has the most dealings with heroes is Boreas, the north wind. So if I looked him up on Google Maps. Oh, he's not hard to find, Annabeth promised. He settled in North America, like all the other gods, but of course he picked the oldest northern settlement, about as far north as he could go. Maine? Jason guessed. No, further. Jason tried to envision a map. What was further north than Maine, the oldest northern settlement? Canada? He decided. Quebec. Annabeth smiled. I hope you speak French. Jason actually felt a spark of excitement. Quebec. At least now they had a goal. Find the north wind, track down the storm spirits, find out who they worked for, and where the ruined house was, and free Hera all in 4 days. Piece of cake, he thought to himself. Thanks, Annabeth, he said. He looked at the photo booth picture still in his hand. So, you said it was dangerous being a child of Zeus? What happened to Thalia? Oh, she's fine, said Annabeth. She became a hunter of Artemis, one of the handmaidens of the goddess. They roam around the country killing monsters. They visit the camp sometimes, but not very often. Jason thought about that for a second. He never heard of such a thing, but after seeing the creepy Zeus statue and finding out Cabin 1 wasn't quite livable, he couldn't blame Thalia. If anybody had to choose between sleeping in these cold, empty cabins all by themselves or going off to join a traveling group, well, it almost made Jason wish he could find them and join them. Who's the other kid in this photo? He asked, the sandy-haired guy. That's Luke, she said, hesitantly. He's dead now. Jason decided it was best not to ask more, but the way Annabeth said Luke's name, he wondered if maybe Percy Jackson wasn't the only boy she had ever liked. He focused on Thalia's face. He kept thinking this photo of her was important, like he was missing something. Jason felt a strange sense of connection to this other child of Zeus, someone who might understand his confusion, maybe even answer some questions. But another voice inside of him whispered, Dangerous! Stay away! How old is she now? He asked. Hard to say, Annabeth said. She was a tree for a while. Now she's immortal. What? His expression must have been pretty good, because Annabeth laughed. Don't worry. It's not something all children of Zeus go through. It's a long story, but, well, she was out of commission for a long time. If she were to age regularly, she'd probably be in her 20s by now, but she still pretty much looks the same as she does in that picture. She's about, well, your age, about 15 or 16. Something that the she-wolf had said in his dream nagged at Jason, and he found himself asking, What's her last name? Annabeth looked uneasy. Oh, well, she didn't use a last name, really. If she had to, she'd use her mom's, but they didn't get along. She did run away when she was pretty young, after all, but it was Grace. Yes, Thalia Grace. A shock of electricity sparked up Jason's brain, metaphorically speaking, and a shred of memory had ignited. Maybe a tiny piece that Hera had forgotten to steal. Or maybe she left it there on purpose, just enough for him to remember that name, and knowing that digging up his past was terribly, terribly dangerous. You should be dead, Chiron had said. It wasn't just a comment about Jason's beating the odds as a loner. Chiron knew something specific, something about Jason's family. The she-wolf's words in his dream finally made sense to him, her clever joke at his expense. He could imagine Lupa growling a wolfish laugh. What is it? Annabeth asked. Jason couldn't keep this to himself. It would kill him, and he had to get Annabeth's help. If she knew Thalia, maybe she could advise him. You have to swear to not tell anyone else, he said. Swear it, he urged, until I figure out what's going on, what all this means. You have to keep it a secret. Annabeth hesitated, but her curiosity won. All right, until you tell me it's okay, I won't tell anyone. I swear it on the river Styx. Thunder rumbled even louder than usual above them. Jason looked at the photo again. My last name is Grace, he said. This is my sister. Annabeth turned pale. Jason could see her wrestling with dismay and disbelief. She thought he was lying. His claim was impossible. But as soon as she heard him actually speak the words out loud, they both knew they were true. Then they were interrupted by the bald guy, Butch, who had just ran in with an expression which they couldn't tell was excitement or fear or both. The dragon! The dragon! He breathed heavily. The satyrs just spotted the dragon! It's back!